welcome back. So, I just want to now extend a little further on the Nordstrom model, but also merge some of the business model thinking into the Nordstrom model. Because ultimately, we find that there's a challenge in layering. When do you do design? Do you do it down in the process level? Do you do it up at strategic business models, right at the top, value system design, ecosystem design? Most people seem to think that design is to do with, second order stuff, which is this type of stuff. Sometimes it's seen as business services and our interaction person to person. But often it tends to be neglected right up at the fourth order level unless you're one of the really big strategic design firms. So hopefully we can go through all of those for you. So really to just give you a little bit of context, this is how I define a business model. So, business model. And a business model is a framework for capturing and creating value. All right? So we capture value and we create value. Now, for who, you might ask? Well, we create value for customers and we capture value for our shareholders. It's always good to make that differentiation. And what defines a good business model is the ability for me to create the right connection between these two. In other words, something that is valuable, which by the way is a gamification term, right? Something that is valuable to my customers and, oops, let's swap that around. Valuable down here and value to my business people at the top. That's what we want to create. We want to create a business model that gives my customers what is termed valuable and my shareholders what is termed value. So, framework for capturing and creating value. And what it is broken up into three. I need to get some math lessons going. The market model, the products and services model, and what is referred to as the operating model. So these three layers make up your business model. And market model, that's where value or valuable tend to be defined, but it's also your customers, your segments, what markets you're playing in, all of those types of things. Products and services, well, these are the widgets that you sell, the services that you provide that wrap around that. And the operating model is the engine of your organization that effectively supports and underlines and drives out the staffing and value within the general business and market. So that's how we define a business model. Now what's important to remember is how does this relate to layers that we need to work with when we do design? Well, we spoke about the Nordstrom model. And if you recall the Nordstrom model, we said we had a problem and a solution and abstract and concrete, and we went through this cycle and lean went around that way. Hopefully you remember that model from the previous lesson. Well, that occurs at 3 levels. So I will go through the process of design right up at the top. So I can do what is referred to as strategic design. And strategic design looks at the whole business model and the soil that it's in with other business models that sit in the entire value system. This is referred to as business model innovation. In other words, true disruption really comes from when I look at an entire value system and I take out players of the value system. In other words, I disintermediate it. There's 55 known business model patterns that you can apply for this, and that's for another conversation, but there's actually good heuristics that you can actually slot over into this space to innovate and reboot your business model. But this space here is called strategic design. Well, guess what? Goes through exactly the same cycle in the Nordstrom model. You begin to understand the markets, you begin to understand what the core problem is, and over here I'll ideate around the types of business models that I think I need in order to create and capture value. Well, the next level down is the products and services space, which is over here. And really this is product and service design. Of course, you've heard of things like service design, and here we can put experience design also. All of those things now fit in here. Okay. By the way, the market model and market stuff sits within as part of the strategic design effort. Now, that product and service design, guess what? Goes through the same cycle. All right, I can start here and I can try and figure out what the true nature of the problem is for my customer. And I can get to a point here and I can ideate. But now I'm not ideating business models anymore. I'm actually ideating around different product and service ideas. Okay. And then the final one for our example is, you guessed it, right down here in the operating model space. All right, and this is, I just call it operating model design. Okay, no rocket science there. Or maybe I should call it something else, but it has some connotations. But really, do you remember my example around month-end procedure and how we reduced that by following this approach? Same up here, all of it, and over here we ideated. We came up with the gamified leaderboard, and we managed to reduce that to 5 days. So that is what we classify as operating model design. So they actually have a handoff with one another. And what we're seeing is that individuals that sit down here in the sort of engine room of the business tend to lack some of the skills that require them to understand this amorphous, complex, ambiguous and messy space of human behavior and innovation. So design is a very good skill to help them grasp and understand those concepts so they can be resonant, they can resonate better with their stakeholders. Products and services people as well, they've been doing this for a long time. But sometimes they don't do it in a structured manner. And what the design thinking discipline actually tells you is it helps you get rid of a couple of your assumptions and your belief systems and just shuffle them around a little, and gives you new ways of trying to ideate. And similar up at the top of the business model level, people tend to still use the creative parts of their brain, not the analytical parts of the brain that effectively look at, well, how can we create new business models and all the rest of it. But there are actually structured ways that you can do it, still using design and not sort of pigeonholing you into the little analytical space, and the business model innovation tactics that you can actually apply at that space. So you can see the Nordstrom model along with the business model. All right, we want to create and capture value, and we can do it across these 3 levels, and design is actually fractal. It's relevant to all 3 of those levels. Thank you.